In fact, if you are now asking, what is the most revolutionary innovation that will change the world? Perhaps most people would immediately answer AI, and in a way, I agree. Since the emergence of generative AI, which at that time was disrupted by ChatGPT, suddenly the whole world felt like it was experiencing the internet for the first time. Man, this is really magical. How come now computer software can answer and make so many things, maybe even better than humans? And this is the story behind the company that will beat Apple. The TR king of AI, Nvidia, is now filming this. They are a company whose market value is third in the world. They have already beaten Google, Amazon, and many public companies. They are only behind Apple and Microsoft, and the difference is not that big. Nvidia is worth $2.2 trillion, Apple is around $2.6 trillion if you look at the chart. And it just so happens that if you were investing in Nvidia 1 year or 2 years ago, now you might be in the middle of J in profits. This year alone, until the beginning of March, they have almost doubled compared to the previous 12 months. And in the last 5 years, they have almost increased tenfold. Why is this? Because Nvidia has the nickname the company behind the companies. Companies like Adobe, Netflix, Airbnb, Tesla, NASA, even OpenAI, and Google are back together with Nvidia. You could say that these companies wouldn't be able to carry out their AI innovation without Nvidia. Oh, I forgot. Actually, there is a reason why Nvidia is so crazy. If they subscribe, it's really crazy. Okay, let's continue. But those of you who watched until now, before you lie and say, I have to buy Nvidia now, you have to watch until chapter 3. Because behind all that success, there is a serious fear that I can't even predict whether Nvidia will really be able to stay strong or not. It's as simple as the gold rush analogy. People are fighting over the gold, which is Nvidia's AI. You could say they are the only company in the world that has to provide a scope for others to get gold. The question is, are they really that genius that they could predict building a company from 10 years ago that others would depend on their product? Well, that's the definition of true power. If you look at Nvidia's revenue, it can rise this high with a net margin of over 50%. It's all purely because of AI. For lay people, Nvidia sells graphic cards for playing games. Oh, that's definitely their core business. Here we'll learn, in my opinion, there's a luck factor too. How crazy is Nvidia's strategy to become the number 3 company in the world? This is only the first step. We need to understand why they are so booming, and we will go to chapter 1. How Nvidia makes its money. Where does it come from? According to me, this is a lucky factor. Yes. And it's true that the origins of Nvidia, first built in 1993, 1 year before I was born, had a vision to build 3D graphics for gaming and the multimedia market. So actually it wasn't wrong until maybe in the last 5-10 years, Nvidia was a company whose focus was on gaming. If we look at their roadmap from 1993 to 2024, the majority of their focus is on one product called GPU. GPU is a graphical processing unit. For those of you who are non-technical, when building a computer, there are usually 2 types of processing units, namely CPU and GPU. CPU, or what is called the central processing unit, is used for the computing needs of all computer operations. If you make an analogy, you have 4 really great workers, their bodies are big, and you give them a really difficult job. Even though they will definitely do it, in the world of gaming or the world of graphic processing, it's like you have 100 people whose bodies are quite small. They can't complete jobs like lifting heavy objects, but if you give them work, for example, like cleaning up a sea of trash, you will be better off with 100 small people than 4 big people. This is a simple analogy. I know this analogy is not perfect, and there will be some IT experts who might explain it better. Because the nature of gaming, or the graphics process until it appears on the screen, requires a lot of pixel processing and smaller tasks. And coincidentally, AI suddenly appears, and suddenly it becomes the AI market, a type of software that requires a lot more small tasks than larger tasks to complete one big task. So that's actually the origin of why Nvidia, which focuses on gaming, can really win in this AI revolution. Here is an analysis. It's called revenue segmentation. So if you're talking about Nvidia's overall revenue, what are the components? If you look at it from 2014 to 2021, most of it focuses on the gaming market. They sell graphic cards, even for multimedia, and that's the green part. But if you look at it, why suddenly this black part became a very significant driver of their income, which made them worth up to $2.2 trillion. Because this is called a data center, so the tools they have now are used by all global companies in the world to run their AI feature. The luck factor here is because no one could predict that suddenly AI could boom like this. but they happen to make a product that was originally for gaming, which happens to be suitable for AI. Even though it spiked in 2021 because at that time there was Bitcoin mining, which was right when people suddenly started mining Bitcoin again. The analogy was that smaller tasks are more suitable for smaller but many jobs. Suddenly, everyone was discussing AI. The problem with this revolution is actually not that no one is using it. The demand is there, but the supply is problematic. I will discuss more later in the last chapter. Nvidia, to build their chips, still depends on a company called TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. The CEO himself says that Nvidia is impossible without this company. And if we connect this to geopolitics, why is Taiwan now really being fought over by TSMC or Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing? Not only because it supplies the majority of operations for Nvidia throughout the world, it supplies around 60% of global chip manufacturing needs. In the past, war was about weapons with people, but if we talk about the AI revolution, the war is basically in the hands of people who can make those weapons. Without Nvidia, without TSMC, maybe now you can't feel any of the AI features from the company. Back to the topic of money. Why is Nvidia still seen as a really monster company that, in my opinion, has the potential to beat Apple? Actually, if we look at the development of their income, it doesn't make sense if, for example, we don't invest in Nvidia. You have to wait until the last chapter where the risks are, and full disclaimer here. Because even though AI has boomed now, the journey is still very long. The revolution is still dominated by America, which is predicted to be Nvidia's main income. We see other countries following suit, like Saudi Arabia in August 2023. They are already fighting to get chips from Nvidia. This node is worth hundreds of millions of dollars because the demand for chips made by America's Nvidia is so crazy that this company is really pushing not to export to China. Mostly because if you pay attention to the AI war, it's possible that America and China are fighting over it as much as possible, so China doesn't get chips from Nvidia as an American company. Right now, China is around 20 to 25% of revenue from Nvidia's data centers, until they have to avoid making chips that are more downgraded or different versions for them, or go to China. I won't discuss too much about the trade war, but so that you understand better. Before I discuss the last chapter, why you still have to be very careful. Don't just go all in and put everything on Nvidia. It's called an educational channel, so you still understand in Chapter 2, the backbone of AI. Applause. Oh my God, if for example you look at this chart, one company can easily dominate the entire market share data center needs to run this AI and even lure Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. If you often read the news, he must have a project, the ambition to build a chip factory worth $1 trillion. In my opinion, it doesn't make sense. But here you can see the ambition that Sam Altman is now tied up with. It really depends on the company behind the company. Not only from OpenAI, because Nvidia also works with Google, Meta, and even Amazon for other features. It must be said that Nvidia will really be the backbone. That's why the data center is now a huge part of their revenue. But here's the crazy thing, right? We just opened ChatGPT a few months ago. All AI features have just been released. This means that, for example, if we talk about AI companies that are still in the early stages of revolution, they are all still R&D and many companies are still testing the water. All of this requires more processing power, which uses Nvidia. So in my opinion, in the next 3 to 5 years, we might see Nvidia's revenue really rising. There's no stopping it unless you watch it in this last chapter, because even though Nvidia is in a very advantageous position, you have to be careful. Alright, we just saw the AI in the new testing water phase, and I think there's a luck factor too. The number of new AI companies now is starting to boom. Those in the early stages of revolution and testing will still be very dependent on Nvidia, and I personally still see Nvidia's revenue growing. But the risk is that Nvidia is so crazy now. But you don't know about the fear of supply issues. This is a bit of a secret because the media doesn't cover it much. But I mentioned earlier that this company, whose production depends on TSMC, now has a very serious problem. TSMC can't even make their capacity. Until now, their capacity is 100% full, but they can't be expected to increase production as soon as possible because of the talent, time, and capital required to make these AI chips. In fact, the CEO of Nvidia said that it might take 20 years to develop a good system. The demand is so great that supply can't catch up. And for those of you who have been looking at my other videos, I often talk about the chip market. The biggest risk is this trade war. If we talk about TSMC, It's one of the companies that America is really proud of. It's not like they can increase production capacity just like that. The capital is very large. It's hundreds of billions of dollars and can't be built quickly. Even Nvidia's competitors are so far behind that I don't see anyone who can really catch up. That's why I mentioned the backbone of AI. So that's the big risk in my opinion. I can say that I'm quite bullish about Nvidia, but if you want to invest, remember to do your own research. If you see this video again in 5-10 years, the situation might be very different because of the geopolitics. The US has to be very careful because if Nvidia can't supply them, the AI revolution will slow down a lot. So actually, that's the reason why I'm still very careful. I always say, do your own research. Even if you think you want to start investing in Nvidia, this is the current state of their stock. So I mentioned the fact that they're crazy, really going up. I might even get asked, do I buy it now? But you have to do your own research, and don't take financial advice from me. This video is purely educational and to understand why Nvidia is now the biggest threat to Apple's crown. If you understand, the market capitalization is quite close, even though it's still far. It might still take a few years to reach, but in my opinion, the most important thing is that you understand why it's possible and what the risks are. So hopefully this video is useful for those of you who want to learn more about the AI market or Nvidia itself. If you liked this video, you can help by liking, subscribing, and commenting. See you in the next video.